If you're looking to buy or sell property in Eagle River, you really need to know all the stuff that I'm going to be breaking down for you so you have a good grasp on what's going on in this environment. My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today we're going to be doing a market update for what's going on in Eagle River, looking at the residential, the condo market, and the multifamily market. And I'll kind of break down the numbers and give you a bit of a summary for what it is that I'm expecting from this market and what we're seeing in the data. But before we get started, you know what to do. Give this video a like, do subscribe, and let's go and jump into today's market update, looking first at the residential side. First thing that we see is that the number of homes that are on the market has gone down, not as much as what we've seen in previous years though. So what we're seeing is that the number of properties available on the market this time last year was 67. Now it's 53. So we're seeing a bit of a decrease, and that's obviously really low compared to the year before, but at least we're not seeing this huge catastrophic drop in inventory like what we've seen in the past previous years. So that's first takeaway. Inventory is down in Eagle River for residential homes. The next thing that we're seeing is the number of residential homes that have actually sold went from about 55 this time last year to 40 this time this year. So you get to a certain point where you've gone over the inventory being so small, where you can't just keep having these big record-breaking years for the number of overall properties that have been selling. So that's to be expected. The demand is still really high, but the inventory's just gotten so small that you just can't keep breaking the previous year's number of properties that have actually sold. So that's to be expected. Now, the next thing that I know everyone really wants to know is what's going on in the average sold price. Well, that's gone up by roughly $20,000 because the average sold price this time last year was about $424,000. This year, it's about $445,000. So it's gone up, not as much as it did from the previous year because, $424,000, that sounded like a lot because the year before, the average sold price was about $391,000. So we're continuing to see this aggressive appreciation going on here in Eagle River as far as homes and the residential side go. We'll talk more about that in the summary though. The next thing we're going to look at is the condo market. So condos, not really a big part of the market here in Eagle River. It is starting to become a bigger part of it, so we always do include it. The number of condos available on the market this time last year was 15, and now it's 7. So not a big pool to start with, but that's been cut in half now. The next thing is that we saw this time last year, 5 condos sold. This year, 5 condos sold. Not a big change there. Now, this is kind of a rarity in this market, but we see that the average sold price actually went from about $266,000 to about $250,000 this year. So we actually see about a 5% decrease in the average sold price for condos, which that's pretty miraculous. Any asset class right now in real estate just kind of go in the opposite direction. But before we get too excited and everybody starts talking about crash this, crash that, condos is a super small pool to be drawing from here in Eagle River, and it's really hard to tell if we just compare these two because I don't know if the condos that sold last year were brand new, so they're going to be more expensive. I don't know if these are just kind of the smaller ones that people are wanting to sell just to be done with them while the market's really hot. So it's really hard to really extrapolate a whole lot of good takeaways for the average sold price just from that sample size. But if you're looking at buying a condo in Eagle River, that does at least give you a little bit of hope that the market's not going too crazy in that market class. But I think that's probably just more due to the fact that it's not a big sample size to begin with. Let's take a break. So for those of you who've been watching for a while, you do know that I host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast, where I interview people about their authentic experience of being up here in Alaska. So it's not just me talking about Alaska, it's other people sharing their stories as well. So do make sure you go check that out in the description section down below, and make sure you tune in, listen to all those podcasts. We've got about a season and a half so far, so plenty of content out there, and you're definitely missing out if you haven't seen it already. Now, let's go and finish today's market update looking at the multifamily market. And speaking of which, what we're seeing is that this time last year, we had about 3 multifamily properties that were available. This year, there are 2. So not a whole lot of movement going on in multifamily properties here in Eagle River. And I definitely understand why. Eagle River is a very desirable place for multifamily properties. You're not going to get rich, but also the cap rate is pretty low. And so usually you're not going to have a whole lot of issues that are going to be coming up where a lot of drama you have to deal with. Usually this is more what you could consider mailbox money. You're not going to be making a lot of it, but also it's going to be pretty easy to manage. That's really what a low cap rate means. So that's number one. Not a whole lot of inventory available for sale here in Eagle River for multifamily. The next thing I would point out is one property sold this time last year and one property sold this time this year. Last but not least, average sold price went from about $568,000 last year to about $617,000 this time this year. So obviously that sounds like a big jump. Obviously, we just have one property sold either year. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of data we can really extrapolate from that. What I do know anecdotally is rents are going up here in Eagle River. So we are going to see some increase for the value for multifamily properties here, just because the value of a multifamily property is tied more into what it can actually bring as far as its gross revenue and how it actually operates, and less so on what's going on in the residential side. So the rents going up is going to be more of an indication for increasing value for multifamily properties. Probably not by that much on every single home, or every single multifamily, but I mean, it's really case by case just because the sample size is so small. So let's go and summarize the other market classes though. So on the condo side, not a whole lot going on there. I kind of suspect we just have people selling a lot of their smaller condos that are going to be closer to the Glen that they've really struggled in the past to sell, and they're just taking advantage of the market being as strong as it is right now, because people who are looking at buying, they might get frustrated on the residential side, and they might decide to just go and try to find a condo instead. Now, on the residential side, this kind of my bread and butter. This is more or less where I operate. The pressure still remains pretty high if you're looking to buy something in Eagle River, and the reason for that is because the buyers here in Eagle River understand that this is probably, the price is going up, is probably not going to be stopping anytime soon. We have a number of people out there that are telling themselves there's going to be a market crash. I'm not seeing it in the numbers. For there to be a market crash like there was last time, we'd have to have a glut of inventory, because that's what caused the last market crash back in the late 2000s, and we're just not seeing that. We're seeing the exact opposite problem, and simple supply and demand, fewer options, the price is going to be going up. So I'm not really seeing this big collapse everyone's talking about. Now, in some markets across the country, there will be a correction, okay? And these are going to be individual markets, and these are really hot markets, though, like the Miamis and the Idahos and certain parts of Arizona. You're going to see some corrections there, probably like 5 or 10% very shortly, and then it's going to get right back onto it. This part of Alaska, specifically Eagle River, it's been hot for us, but compared to these other places, nowhere near the same. So don't just trust anyone right now that's saying, oh, there's going to be a big market crash everywhere. I'm not seeing it in the data. I'm not feeling it on the ground. You know, obviously it can always be wrong, but in the data, I'm just not seeing it. Believe me, I kind of wish that there was, just so we could have a little bit more equilibrium brought back to the market, but that is just not realistic in the near future. So on that cheery note, thanks for watching. Let me know if you do have any questions. Put those in the comments section down below. I'd love to hear from you, hear what you're thinking, and we'll see you next time.